Welcome all. Welcome to my new podcast episode. Today in the studio we have a guest who has invested her whole life to volunteering and seva, and she was former software engineer. Um, Now she is also a yoga instructor, and she's investing her life mostly in the volunteering and helping others. With that, I want to call Dipti into the studio. And hey, Dipti, welcome to studio. And would you like to tell something about yourself?
First of all, namaste, and I'm honored to be in your studio. It's a beautiful wall over here. It's there is no AI over here. I'm really sitting in your studio face to face in this world of AI. I need to tell your audiences and your guests and listeners today that I'm feeling very good about this. Um, my name is Deepti. We have been San Antonio residents for 4+ years now. Thank you for that nice introduction. I never thought of myself as a lifelong volunteer, but now that I'm reflecting in the moment that you've introduced me that way, I feel like it was very appropriate, and I'm amazed how you came to that conclusion in such a short time. So I am involved in a few projects. Um, One is the Yogsopanam project, which is a flagship program of Yog Sadhana and is initiated at the Om Ashram by Dr. Hetal Nayak and Dr. Devraj Nayak. They realized that there was no structured curriculum which addressed uh, intense program like Ashtang, Vinyasa Krama of Mysore, and that's one of the programs that I'm associated with as a volunteer. And interestingly, the curriculum that Dr. Nayak has come up with, I'm writing a textbook on that as of now. It's a 500-page textbook. That's one of my biggest projects that's happening right now. I've also been given the Daitva. Daitva is basically responsibility of Seva lead in San Antonio of HSS. HSS full form is Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh. Swayam Sevak means you are self motivated to be a volunteer, and the motivation comes from within. The idea is faith based, but it doesn't restrict itself to the faith. It basically means that, like, I have a Janma Bhumi, which was Bharat most for most of us, and now I have this Karma Bhumi, which I have adopted as the US, and I have my responsibilities towards both, more so towards the Karma Bhumi where I am staying and raising my family in, and how can I make it better. So that is the other organization that I volunteer for. I have 3 kids. Two of my kids go to Health Careers High School, and the PTA board member over there. And we have recently started in San Antonio, Make Texans Healthy Again. So I am the lead social media coordinator for them. In other capacities, my children are all involved in Scouts, and I'm very proud that they chose this path, Scouting America. And as needed, I volunteer at their organization in their packs and troops. Sorry, that was
Wow,
a long
wow, yeah,
introduction.
that's a definitely
And
long list of activities they are involved in. Can you like briefly tell me, like, because I try to be involved in some volunteer activities and things like that, but in this busy life, when you have a family and things that you have to do as a responsibility, how do you manage to like do all of these things at the same time?
it just happens. Basically, when you are so passionate about all these causes, you start dropping off things that you feel like are not adding value. So I probably don't follow the news. I don't watch movies. I don't socialize other than going to the ashram. Um, and so, and then that just frees up so much of my time.
Mhm.
And I mean, the only things I'm doing is either being with my family at home, cooking, cleaning, um, or volunteering at the ashram usually, or at the school. And in fact, in the last 3 years of the writing of this book, I can boastfully say I have never ever woken at 2 a.m. in the morning for a consistent amount of period, but this book has literally changed my life that I never need any alarm or anything. It's the most quietest period. They call it the Vata period, the time of creativity, maximum creativity.
Mhm.
I just simply wake up at sometimes 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and I start writing on the book, and it has been going on since last 2 or 3 years on and off. So when you're just so passionate about something, your entire the universe conspires to make that happen,
Mhm.
and there's no effort needed on your part. I must say I have to give credit to my kids. My son is he's a rising senior. He's very very cooperative. My daughter, she's like a second mother to my youngest. So when I'm unavailable, mentally
Mhm.
tuned out at home, she literally takes care of my youngest one, plays with him, entertains him, teaches him, sometimes even prepares fresh dosas, and that's our staple diet. Even though we were born in most of my family comes from North, yoga dosa is a staple diet. She prepares fresh dosas and she feeds him. So I it takes off a lot of my time, and I am able to do so much for the society.
Yeah, so definitely family support, right?
Yes,
Without family support,
yes.
you cannot do it. It's funny that you said you wake up at 2. I mean, like I'm sometimes getting hard time going to sleep at 2.
I mean,
So, so that is very impressive. I'm still like every year my New Year resolution is like, okay, I'm gonna wake up at 5, and so far it hasn't been so. My kids are small, but hopefully, going in next year, I'll be able to do that. All right. So you said you do yoga, right? And
uh-huh.
so how do you connect yoga towards like a seva? What is there any connection between that? Like doing yoga actually made you influenced or made you lean towards doing seva and volunteering and dharma like that?
There's a very interesting story behind it. I studied in a convent school, and you know how in Bharat our education is so biased, where our ancient uh, uh, sciences are not even brought up, forget about being discussed and taught. And I had not even heard about yoga. When I passed my 12th grade, my mom just casually referred to this organization called Akhil Bharatiya Yoga Sansthan. And they were teaching yoga in several parks throughout my hometown, which was Ghaziabad in Uttar Pradesh back then. She said, they teach at 5 a.m. Would you be able to? And I've not always woken at 2 a.m. Back then, she was like, "Are you sure you'll be able to wake up at 4:30, take a shower, and go to the park by 5?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I will. Sounds interesting. I want to give it a try. Let me do it." And I would just we take out my bicycle, ride through the morning breeze with the air flowing in my hair, and my little chadar tucked in the carrier of my cycle, and I would go show up there every morning. They used to do classes 7 days a week, and this is what 2001. And I it was maybe just 2 or 3 months, and there was this transformational change inside me that I was feeling, and it's hard to describe, but the flowers were looking prettier, the sky was looking more blue, the fragrances were more stronger, and I think the world was just more prettier in general. And I was like, huh, this is interesting to just feel what I'm feeling right now. I had completed my engineering by then, and I was looking for a job. But by that time, I got an opportunity to do an entrepreneurial certification in IIT Delhi, and so I moved on to Delhi, and I realized, okay, so what do I do now? I started teaching my roommates the things that I had learned, neti, jal neti, and pranayam, and they were seeing, I mean, we were all in our 20s, early 20s, and you see results like that. You see results very quickly. And I was like, this is interesting. And then life was just moving so fast at that time. I got a job in Infosys, moved to Bangalore. Uh, this was 2003. And in the summers of 2003, CRY, Child Relief and You, they came up and they put a booth in our in Bangalore campus at Infosys, and they were looking for volunteers. And I'm like, okay, what do you need? And they said, we're looking for yoga teacher, but we won't be able to find one. So anyhow, we'll. And I'm like, wait, I am a yoga teacher because I've had gained enough skills in the past several months, and in fact, one of the things, they never charged me a paisa. Like literally, it was a free program run by
Mm.
volunteers, and the only fees that we were supposed to pay is go ahead, go out in the some community and teach another 100 students. And I was in my 20s. I didn't have the concepts of seva and Pitra Rin and Samaj Nar Rin, and I didn't know all these concepts. But for me, it was a transaction. Okay, I learned, and now I have to repay. So they said the fees is pay. Go ahead and teach 100 students. That's the fees I have to pay. So I'm available. I'll come. What days do I have to come? Come on the weekends. I was like, okay, I'll come. And so then they appointed me to the juvenile school, and I didn't even know what a juvenile school was back then. They said, there's a juvenile school. You have to go and teach on Sundays, and I was like, sure, okay. And so then the way I had learned is that there was always somebody who was giving demos, and then there was an instructor.
Mm.
So then I requested I need another volunteer to come and join me. And Venu who was also volunteering for Cry at that time, said, just volunteered, sure, I'll come. In the mornings, we would meet in the park. I would tell him all the asana that I was planning to teach that day. And in the evening, we would go back again to the juvenile school and teach those asana and then come back. The first day when I went there, these kids were not, didn't have the best hygiene, right?
Mm.
They were not having the best clothes. They were just surviving over there. And the kind of background that I was raised in, my dad was a general practitioner in UK, and hygiene was like the most important thing in our home. Like we washed our hands all the way, front and back. Like we were like we had everybody had OCD about hygiene in our
Mm.
family. When these kids were done with their class, they were so excited that somebody had come to give them a personal training. They all clung and they all hugged me.
Mm.
And the first thought in my head went was not that, oh my goodness, they love me so much. These little kids adore me. That was not the first thought. The first thought that came to my mind was, oh my goodness, I don't think they have taken a shower in the last several days. I don't know what should I do now. And I was terrified, like what's going to happen to me. So I go back to Infosys next day, and I was I didn't know the word dating, but I was seeing my best friend at that time, Abhinav Shukla, who is my husband, and I said, Abhinav, I don't know why, but I didn't feel nice about it. And he was like, he was just my anchor and my strength, and he was like, Deepthi, he said what was needed to be said in the moment. And he said, do what makes you feel comfortable. If you want to wash your kurta in Dettol, go and do it. But don't leave what you have picked up. This, you feel very passionate about it. And I did that. And then from then onwards, when I look back at my life, those 6 months that I spent at the juvenile in Bangalore were perhaps the most beautiful days. The love that they showered on me, the way they hung on me, the way they all gathered around me after the class, it's just the most undescribable and the most memorable time of my life. I spent 3 years in Bangalore behind laptops, coding, and then going out for lunches and dinners on weekends, bowling, doing whatnot. And I've forgotten all of that. But their love has stayed with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like again, because your giving was without any expectation, right?
That's
I think
true.
that's where the joy comes from, I think, right? Because a lot of the things that we do these days are kind of like a trading.
Trading, yeah.
You're doing because you're expecting something from the back, but the biggest satisfaction comes from doing without any expectation. And on that occasion, I think you didn't had an expectation from those kids,
I did not.
right?
I
Right?
think, yes.
Yeah, you were just giving, and
Right.
that's where it felt great. All right. So I know you are involved in Seva, HSS, and their big event is coming on, right? Coming up pretty quickly, called Seva Diwali. Can you give a little bit of how it started and where you're leading and what does this organization do?
Absolutely, I would love to. So, in pockets across the US, Hindus are kind of the fifth generation right now, in if we can roughly say, in the United States. The first generation struggled with groceries, just trying to get lentils and rice and spices. The second, third generation struggled with, building temples, trying to settle down, forming communities. With all of those basic needs met, now the fourth and fifth generations have been thinking about, like I said, there is this, we have five kinds of rin: Rishi rin, Pitra rin, Nara rin, Bhuta rin. So Rishi rin is the rin towards the divinity. How do I
Rin is like a debt.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. Yes, rin is like a debt. So when I'm born, I'm taking from everyone. I took resources from my mother in my womb, in my mother's womb. I was born and I took physical resources. um, I started eating the produce that the earth is generating.
Mhm.
So that's the Bhumi rain, or so nature rain. So I have the debt I took from the nature, the debt that I had took from my mother and father because I am bearing their lineage, the Pitra rin, the second rin, the third rin, the Dev rin. Just be having an attitude of gratitude for everything that I have been given. I have been given, and there's abundance. I have limbs, I have eyes, I have five senses. I'm sitting here comfortably. I have a glass of water to quench my thirst. I'm full stomach. There are a million things to be grateful about. And that's Rishi Rin. And then there are two more rins, and one is Nara Rin. We are a community. We are all connected with each other. Bringing out people, introducing them on your podcast, and making their thoughts and their views available for the general public to hear. Took a good amount of preparation to just set up this beautiful studio and all the equipment and the camera. Bhai Sahab, it's a lot of work that you've done in. So the Nar Rin is when we realize that we are taking so much from the society. I am standing on the tall shoulders of the people who came on this earth before me, and I realize that I have to somehow give it back, and I cannot give it to the people I took it from, so I have to pay it forward. And that's when you realize that, what am I doing? What is my responsibility? My responsibility is to do seva, and seva is not equivalent to I am superior and I have this superiority that I can provide somebody with food, clothes, shelter, money, whatever. I have this debt that I had taken and I have to pay it forward. And I am very grateful to the person who's receiving it from me, because of them I'm able to clear my debt.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would just keep on carrying it on to other lifetimes, and I would have to pay it with interest in who knows what form.
Okay.
So, so this was a brainstorming idea that a lot of people across US were having. People were doing a dozen different projects across these organizations. They were doing blood drives, they were doing walkathons, they were doing adopt a streets, they were doing plant trees, um, so many things, even teaching. There's this couple who goes in Indiana, and they've been teaching for 9 straight years in a school in a suburb, in the underprivileged area. And there are many such examples. And people were also donating food, but in small pockets. And so all of these organizations were brainstorming together, how can we collectively do something, because there is strength in collectivity. And when we make a small idea a big idea, many more ideas come out of it. And so for like 4, 5, 6 months, these organizations sat together and try to find a common ground for people of all backgrounds who could combine and be joined with one single effort. And looked like food was everybody has a stomach, everybody needs to eat, everybody seems to be connected with food in different ways, emotionally, psychologically, people enjoy it. This seemed to be something that we could all relate to. Everybody knew somebody who had had heard a story about somebody going hungry at bed. And I think this was something that people realized that was something that could be taken on a national level. So in 2018, formally Seva Diwali was formed as a committee. And first a few first it started in one state, in just New Jersey. And then a few people started to uh, go home to home and say, okay, can you please donate some rice, some beans, some cans? And then they connected to the local food pantry. They said, we've collected some food, please donate it for us. And that's how it began. Probably just 20 pounds of food in the first year. But today, since 2018, it has grown to over 1 million pounds of food. Last year in 2025, throughout 38 states, something that had started in one state that went to 7 states, to 11 states, to 14 states, um, to around 28 states last year. We were at 38 states in 2025. And I'm just proud to say that all of these organizations, whether it was HSS or Seva International or Chinmaya Mission or Art of Living or Heartfulness, and you just name it, and all the local Uttar Pradesh Association, Nepal Association, Kannada Association, Telugu Association, and there's several of them sometimes in some of the cities, Tamil Association, Malayalam, Kannada, all of these Sanskrit schools, Hindi Pathshalas, NRIs, Sana, like nurse associations, they just made it their own project. And now they were all collectively involved in it. And they were like, let me donate through either kind or through cash. And so you would either connect with their local friends, their work colleagues, their neighbors, and come up with a donation, or just if they could not, if they were living outside the skirts of the neighborhood, they would donate cash. And so this has become a national movement at this point, where we've received like dozens of proclamations from local mayors, senators. We've been recognized in different cities across 200 plus cities across the state, across the United States, that this is a dependable source of resources, especially during our biggest festival of the year, which is Diwali, which is one festival which connects all north, south, east, west of Bharat, and one festival that probably everybody can relate to. And I mean, I'm sure you would be willing to ask me about Diwali. Well, Diwali is like celebrated with food and lights and all of that. So when it comes to food, we want to make sure that it's not just our tummies which are full. It's not just we are who are enjoying the delicacies. We cannot be happy unless the entire community that we live in is happy. And so was an occasion where, when we are learning that there are people who are going empty stomach to bed, we realize that we need to do something about that, especially around Diwali, because we want to make sure everybody is happy around that time.
Yeah, Diwali is a time when there's a lights and festive season, like kids are happy and all this and that. So you really want to make sure that your family is happy, and your neighbor's family, and a lot of people who are actually might not be as much fortunate as you are have that. That's really nice. That's really nice. So can you talk a little bit about Seva Parma Dharma? What does that really mean, and how is that actually attached to the Diwali, like a Seva Diwali?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. Seva Parmo Dharma. So the Hindu faith is guided by our Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma comes from the root word dhri, जो धारण करता है, what sustains. There is no one definition of dharma. Dharma is like, what is a dharma of water? It flows. What is a dharma of air? It blows. So you can say property. what is my dharma? As a mother, my dharma is to take care of my kids, right? As a professional, my husband's dharma is to feed the family, bring bread on the table. So it can be taken in any form, right? And then we talked about the five rin. So am I fulfilling those five rin in some or the other way? Right now I'm in my prime years. Am I going to take care of my kids and my elders? Because my prime years is when I am at maximum energy. So on and so forth. These are all of my dharma. And Sanatan Dharma means eternal dharma. Like it has no beginning, no end. It was always there. It will always be there. Whether we live there or not live there, it will always be there. It is our guiding principle. So the whole Hindu faith relies on the Sanatan Dharma as its main foundational principle or guiding North Star. And in that, we have to, like Patanjali Yoga Sutra talk about the eight folded path. It starts with yam and niyam. And within those yam and niyam, the first two limbs of the eightfold path, it talks about the five sub limbs in each of them. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. These are the five sub limbs of yama. Rest, how we behave in the outer world. Yama is how we behave in the outer world. Ahimsa, no hurting either in speech, in thoughts, in speech, or in action. Certainly, it means I'm not going out with weapons and I'm not destroying the planet. Definitely, on a very gross level, it means that. But on a subtle level, it means, am I, by hoarding, am I hurting other people who had who were supposed to have this food on their plates? I shouldn't be hoarding. I shouldn't be taking more than I have. So all of these guiding principles together form our, whether you want to go through the path of Upanishad, or whether you just want to look at the summary of Upanishad through Bhagavad Gita, or whether you just want to pick up story formats of Ramayana, which is a beautiful story format of this wonderful King Raja Ram that people just consider their ideal, who was perfect in every different form. Or whether you take it from any angle, you reach the same destination, that serving others is our way of living. It comes back to the same. We have five kinds of debt. We have to pay them. Otherwise, what is the difference between us as human beings and the rest of the animal kingdom? The mind, the intellect that we've been given as a gift is supposed to be utilized um, in a valuable way for the betterment of people whom we can serve. So param dharma, seva param dharma hai, seva parmo dharma. That is our first and foremost dharma. Is like, again, like, what is my duty? It's my first and foremost duty. So it begins with myself. Am I taking care of myself? Am I following the yam niyam? Am I doing my asana pranayam? Am I doing pratyahar? Removal from the worldly senses is pratyahar. Asana pranayam we all know. And then the rest three come, dharan, dhyan, samadhi. Am I trying to focus on one thing at a time? Not trying to multitask. So all of that comes in on a very gross level. So once I've taken care of myself, am I taking care of my immediate family members, my kids, my husband, my family? And then am I taking care of the samaj, the little neighborhood that I live in? And then am I taking care of the samaj? So that is my param dharma as a person who is not studying. If I was a student, my param dharma was studying. Am I studying? Am I bringing good marks? Am I making my parents feel proud? That's my param dharma. But as a grahastha, in my grahasthashram, what am I doing? What is my contribution? So this is why it is called, what is your prime objective in life? Yeah.
And basically, prime objective right now for you is seva.
As long as I can, as long as Bhagwan Shiva allows me to. Yeah.
So, when is this initiative starting this year?
Oh, this usually starts like a month before Diwali,
Mm.
and sometimes a little bit after Diwali. Some organizations are still collecting food, a little bit after Diwali. So we post flyers in all the major WhatsApp groups across the cities. Seva Diwali is a website where you can, if you don't know any Seva collection project, home or contact point, you can go to Seva Diwali. There should be a home or a number listed in your neighborhood in the if you go to the maps. So we start it around that time, and then we make announcements. We place in San Antonio. We are very lucky. There is this food bank called San Antonio Food Bank,
Mhm.
SAFB. Now we just have to do the collection part. So we just have to spread the message. Please donate food. People, organization, communities, workplaces, schools, they all come and donate food, and we just go and request food bank to come and pick it up. And now the distribution part is all theirs. I
Mhm.
mean, we are so grateful to them for taking up this whole second part of the project, and they have a pretty connected distribution system where they know exactly which neighborhoods to serve first and which route to make. And they have a whole trucking system to take the produce from and take these non-perishables that we donate them, and it just works very efficiently.
Yeah, one thing that I want to actually highlight to the audience here. So, food bank doesn't discriminate who it gives food to, right?
Correct.
It distribute to, regardless of how you look or what religion you follow or
Correct.
anything like that,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So when you are doing seva here, you are not looking for your own creed. You are looking
Correct.
for it is being distributed to anybody, any population who
Right.
needs help.
That is very right. And this is the discrimination part takes out, it brings your own personal biases. And God did not create two people differently. I mean, the skin colors might be different, our accents might be different, our geographical locations might be different. But in the divine's eyes, we are all the same humans. And so, yes, we speak different languages and eat different food and wear different clothes, but that doesn't differentiate one human from the other. And that is again the premise of our dharma. And look at Bharat. You have the whitest complexion in Kashmir to the darkest complexions in the south, right? You have completely different accents in the east to the west, but you have everything in just one country. But still, at the end of the day, we are all one in Bharat, right? Everybody is just one. And when these events happen, we all come together. All these different organizations come together, and they all have their own ideas. They have like how if we implement it this way, how if we implement that way. But then at the end of the day, they all realize that we are doing it for the greater cause of the community we are living in, and let's come together as one unit and serve the communities.
Very good, very good. So I know that it is a massive undertaking and big organizational effort. So how do you manage it? I mean, like, um, yeah, just to do a small work, especially it's a volunteering effort, right? You don't pay people for doing it. How do you manage it?
I'm glad you asked that. So, Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev ji of Isha Foundation, he laughs. He says, "You cannot fire volunteers," because you never hired them, obviously. So yes, it is when you're working with people, like we were designing t-shirts at our last PTA meeting, and oh my goodness, people had 10 different ideas, and everybody just strongly felt their ideas were the best. And we probably went on and on for hours in that meeting. So when people come there, everybody's so passionate about the project, they want to implement it in their own way, and we sometimes don't end up coming to any conclusion, and it is a mess, and we want to get things out of the way, and we have deadlines to meet and things to get done. But at the end of the day, we have to keep our north star in alignment. Why are we all here? We are here to serve the community. And so when you have that thing in your mind, what's your goal? the goal is not all these chit chats that are distractions in these meetings. The goal is to serve, to collect food and make sure nobody goes hungry on a Diwali night or during the Diwali season, right? So when that goal is so clear in the mind, everything else just starts settling on its own. And the biggest questions that come is, why do we have to serve vegetarian food? Because a lot of American population is non meat eating. Or why do we even have to serve this community? Because don't they have churches to serve? Don't they have food banks to serve? So many questions arrive, and these questions come up every single year after year after year. The same questions come up. And so we have to keep with patience and with a calm mind. We have to keep answering the same answers every single year. If there was enough food, today food bank wouldn't be thanking the Indian population. If there was enough food, the churches wouldn't be collaborating with Seva Diwali in all the other cities. They wouldn't be accepting food. Nobody wants to accept things that would go to the trash, right? It's an overhead for everybody. We have so many um, uh, uh, video clippings on the Seva Diwali Facebook page where people are saying, "Thank you. I had 4 days of food in my pantry, and because of you, I can last for 7 months now." And there's pride in saying that. Yes, there is definitely pride in saying that Seva Diwali has helped so many people across America. But there should be no ego in it. The ego is what takes um, is the differentiating factor. The people who are receiving the food are actually helping, benefiting us by receiving the food and taking a debt off us. And so there's definitely happiness that I was able to provide because I was given the means and resources by whoever you worship, Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna, whoever you worship, that I was provided with the means that I could go and help out somebody. But at the same time, we are not at a higher footage than the receiver. We are at the same level.
So, if anybody, like for instance, teenager, adult, or like any organization who wanna be associated with the Seva and Seva Diwali initiative and all that, like how can they do that?
I'm glad you brought up that question. So, a bunch of kids at Health Careers, for instance, in fact, my son was one of them. He started a Hindu club, Hindu faith based club called Hindu Yuva. And through that, he advertised, made flyers, and he placed the advertisement that anybody could donate non perishable food items in the bucket. And then we went and placed the bucket in the food bank bucket at the school. The school gave us permission to do that. And then at the end of the month, we picked it and took it back. So Basis was one of our partners last year. Health Careers was a partner last year. And so if the schools, sometimes there is this very interesting story about the Monroe or Woodbridge school district in New Jersey, where the superintendent was so impressed by the work that these kids were doing that he made it a district wide project. So now he sends an email to all the schools in the entire school district, and they all celebrate Seva Diwali district wide, and they all have bins in their schools and they all collect food. But then at the same time, now they can direct their efforts towards going in their communities and knocking on doors and expressing this is what we are doing. So this is also one thing some of the kids did in another city. They collected the list of items that the local food bank needed, and they said these are the 10 things that they are looking for. This is the bag size. They handed over the bag size, and then after 4 days or 8 days later, they came back and said, whatever you can give, we'll collect it from you. And then so that way they collected like 20-30 full size bags of food just in their own community. So there's so many examples. So kids, adults, anybody can get associated with this. It's such an easy project. And there's no upper or like there's no minimum. Like you can just hand over a bag of rice, a can of peas. Just like the Gurudwara, for instance, they just give tons and tons of urad dal and rice um, and the Gayatri Parivar of San Antonio. So Om Ashram, we are lucky to have Om Ashram here as a kind of a storage point for till the time when actually food bank is able to come and bring its truck and pick up all the stuff. So we are able to store the stuff in Om Ashram. Gayatri Parivar, every time they come, we literally have to spend a good 1 hour just stacking up everything from pillar to pillar to pillar to pillar, all the way through the veranda to just display everything that they have donated. I have a whole list of linguistic and cultural organizations that have donated in San Antonio, and they're with me. Like, I have to read them out. There are so many. If you have the time to play on your podcast,
If that's important for you, go ahead.
I think it is. I mean, Bharatiya Muttazi Sangam, Gujarati Samaj of San Antonio, Hindi Pathshala San Antonio, Kuendu Kannada Sangha of San Antonio, Maharashtra Mandal, Sanskrit Bharati, San Antonio Tamil Sangam, Telangana Association of Greater San Antonio, Telugu Association of San Antonio, Uttar Pradesh Association of San Antonio, Art of Living, Om Ashram, Om Yog Sadhana, Om School, Basawa Kuta, BAPS, Shri Swaminarayan Mandir, Dharm Sthal, Sikh Center, Gayatri Parivar, Gurudwara, Hindu Temple of San Antonio, Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh, Isha Foundation, ISKCON San Antonio. The list goes on. Seva International San Antonio, Sai Temple. Sai Temple is our. I'm reading the list really fast because there are so many. The Sai Temple has been really instrumental because they have hosted this inaugural function every single time, and they have a beautiful architecture. And Mr. Eric Cooper, we welcome him to give the inaugural speech at Sai Temple, and sometimes the little figurines are decorated in a golu over there, and it's just a beautiful atmosphere. So Sai Temple, Swaranjali School of Hindustani Classical Music, VT Seva, and then the year before, even Costco donated $100. So we've added them to our community partners. Health Careers High School, like I mentioned, Hope for Triumph, they are into cancer, hope for the cancer survivors. Indian Association of San Antonio, San Antonio Indian Nurses Association, NRIVA, Wasabi Association, and then a lot of individuals and a lot of communities like Garrison neighborhood, Ravina apartment, leasing office, Shahi Indo Park grocery store, Himalayan grocery store, Alamo Ranch in Stone Oaks, Alamo Ranch, and then Stone Oak neighborhood, Hilotis neighborhood, Hermosa Hill neighborhood. So people advertise their own homes as places, food collection spaces. They advertise, they post flyers so people in their neighborhood can actually drop off food in their homes itself. So I mean, the list is endless, and you see these numbers. We started with 23 pounds in COVID time, and this last year we were around 36,000 pounds of food in just 5 years. Look how much progress we've made. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's amazing. It sounds like you guys are doing definitely a lot of good work over there. Seva is something that we also look at, not only from organizing perspective, but from giving perspective as well. So I know there's a feeling and all these things that you can do by doing Seva, but at the same time by volunteering and all that, what kind of skill set and what actually in literal meaning value like a young folks or who get involved get out of it.
Leadership is definitely one. Just coming out of your own little cocoon and your own comfort shell and going out to a stranger in your neighborhood and saying, "Uncle, can you please donate a box of canned peas or beans?" It literally is a new world for our little ones. And that hesitation, that who am I to go and ask? That ego, you have to break that ego. So that's a big lesson for our little ones and our middle schoolers and our definitely teenagers. Like, I don't want to get associated, but when you tell them the stories about a person who had a beautiful job until yesterday, they were feeding their families, and today when they open their pantries and there's nothing to feed their families, and these people have dignity, they have their self respect. It's very difficult for somebody who has been on their feet throughout their life suddenly go out in the world and ask for food. And so when food bank tells us these stories that these people are being provided food with dignity, and when we go and share these stories with our teenagers, they understand the value of the work that is done, and they themselves come and say, how can we help more? So our teenagers actually go and cook food at food bank or at the temples. For years now, Hindu Temple of San Antonio has been serving sandwiches for the homeless every fourth Sunday or fourth Saturday of the month, if I'm not wrong. We go as a group, make sandwiches, and distribute them to the homeless. And definitely Gurudwaras do it all the time. They distribute food to any Gurudwara in any city. You just cannot go hungry. Like, they are just selflessly giving fresh, warm, like the best tasting food ever to anybody and everyone who comes to their door. And so these teenagers, when they realize that there's so much goodness out in the world, they got influenced as well. So coming out of your shell, realizing that there are the people in need that need to be served is a big, big lesson. And that, I think, is very valuable to know. When actually, when I heard Mr. Cooper say that, when he invited us to the faith-based meeting, it was that was the first time I went back home. I opened my pantry and I said, Bhagwan, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Thank you so much that my pantry is full. I never ever thanked my Ishwar for abundance before that. And you don't, as an adult, I'm saying, take things for granted. You have seen your parents' pantries full, you've seen your neighbor's pantries full. You never realize that this could be a problem for somebody. Like, this could be a challenge for a family just right across the road.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, eating is the basic thing, right?
Yeah.
You can probably live outside in the open, but you have to eat to
But
survive.
yes,
So definitely. So when you think about Seva, how has it transformed your?
transformed my life. So when those coming back to my years in the juvenile at Bangalore, I think my most memorable part in Bangalore was those 6 months that I spent with those kids. Abhinav ji would say, "Why don't you just take a break today? Let's go out for a movie." And I would be like, "No, I just want to be with those kids. We can go out for a movie on the other days, weekdays, the other weekend, but I don't want to miss my time with these kids. It's just so precious." So, I mean, the love that the community gives back to you is so overwhelming, and you don't do it for that love. It just comes back to you. I feel like when I serve the community, it fulfills my purpose on this earth. It fulfills. I mean, I come back to the same thing. There's so much to be thankful for. I have two limbs, I have two hands, two legs, I have a mouth to speak, appreciation for nature, and I have the most wonderful three kids one can hope for. Um, I mean, yes, there are challenges in life, but you have to learn to be grateful and give back when you've been given so much.
Yeah. Just switching a topic a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Since my podcast is about books and becoming,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
And is there any book that has had when you read it, you had a big influence in your life?
Several. Um,
If you have to pick one.
the one that is coming on my mind is by Jonathan Livingston Seagull that I read after college, and it was a tiny booklet, and he said I used to send healing vibrations everywhere where I went, and he did not call it Reiki at that time, but later on I realized that Reiki is the same thing, that just sending out positive energy throughout the world. And we can all become, it's such a beautiful concept that I can become a metal conduit, and just like we if I put a tiny piece of paper and I put a magnifying glass on top of it and concentrate the sun rays, the piece of paper will burn. Now, what did I do? I just concentrated the sun rays and directed it to a small little thing. And so if that can happen with the magnifying glass, so it can happen through my body. And so then my body can become that magnet to all the positivity that is out there across the universe, in our Milky Way, in the solar system, in the Milky Way galaxies. Just be a conduit to it. Let it pass through your body and let it flow to everybody around you. And I am a part of a Reiki group, which gives free Reiki to the entire world on Saturday mornings, my time. Started by my very good friend Dakshata Talekar, she's in Bay Area, and also another friend who does it in Dallas, Priyanka Sarkar. And so these two beautiful women are doing it out of the love for humanity. And I think they are living what Jonathan Siegel said in his book. I'm these days I'm reading another book by Alastair Sandhouse. His book is called Head First. Everything it says resonates with me so much. He talks about um, how we do not look at the big picture when it comes to treating our patients, as he's a psychiatrist in UK, and how we isolate the individual symptoms, and how the doctors are so scared about being sued and about following procedures, and how they miss the essential details. And I can resonate with everything. I have lived through this in my own personal life, where my questions were ignored by some of the best doctors in Seattle area, even before then, in my childhood. And I'm incidentally, you would kind of attract these same kind of people who have similar thought patterns. Dr. Devraj Nayak, who is also my guru at Om Ashram, was yesterday in his lecture saying, as a cardiologist, it takes me 5 seconds to prescribe a pill to my patient for a heart condition. It takes me 30 minutes to explain them, you need to change your lifestyle and your diet and your thought process and your sleep patterns, and just eliminate everything that's toxic out of your diet. And how much does a doctor get paid for it? And any guess? And there's no guesses for that, right? How much are doctors paid for it?
Paid for preventative?
Yes.
None, I think.
Nothing, right? They're not paid. My PCP in Seattle, Dr. Wallace Hodges, he was actually kicked out of the hospital because he used to spend an hour with us, with me and my husband. We used to go together for our annual wellness checkups. He was kicked out of the hospital because the doctors are given 15 minutes to do all the assessments on the paper. And in that time, they're not even looking at you. They're buried deep in their laptop because they have to make notes. What kind of healthcare systems are we living in? And so I think this is a wonderful book that everybody should be reading, and realizing people need to depend on themselves for their health and not depend on just the medical system. I mean, I'm not saying don't go to the hospitals, but use that as the last resort when everything else fails, when you have had the proper lifestyle and the proper diet and the proper nutrition, and then you still can't figure it out. That's when you see a doctor, not at the beginning, not at the first stop.
Yeah, they are not spending a lot of time on the preventative, right?
They're
It's
not.
just about like you'll make money when
Yeah.
you prescribe the medicine. So I know, and again, another one interesting thing since you're talking about that, I was also searching about the Ayurveda and like Ayurvedic medicine and all that. Like that actually works, but at the same time, when you look at the Western research and information out there, it doesn't prescribe that, right? It would say like because there hasn't been enough research or something, but at the same time, Ayurvedic is a lot of time way to go, right? It is accessible at home
Yeah.
to start using,
Right.
and it does work.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm pursuing my Ayurved with Kerala Ayurveda in Bay Area, Milpitas. And our professor over there, Dr. J. Kodaikanal, he said, do you know curcumin? They have isolated that particular element from haldi, turmeric, and they're so selling it as capsules. And that isolation has made it toxic. Instead of healthier, it has made it toxic. Turmeric is a root. For my Western listeners, please, it's not turmeric, it's turmeric. They have ice. Nature has made it as a whole compound, as a root, and it's supposed to be grounded in a powder and boiled or sauteed in your curries and in your legumes. It's not supposed to be broken down in a laboratory and sold as different flavonoids and natural flavorings. When you do that, you are taking a portion of the whole and you're actually just destroying the whole beauty of the whole product that Mother Nature made. So I'm so glad you brought it up, because see, Ayurveda is one which treats you holistically. The sad part about is that there's no current research is going on. But the best part about is it came out of deep research by our rishis who meditated, who went into samadhi. And were our foremost researchers who, after enormous amount of penance, wrote our Bhrigu Samhita, Charat Samhita. I mean, people around the world respect the research we have put in these ancient sciences. It's sad that we ourselves are not making use of it. So Ayurveda, what is it? It's just saying have a proper dincharya, have a proper sleep schedule, eat the right amount of sattvic food at the right time, with the right nutrition, with the right mindset, in a clean environment. It should be freshly made. What is sattvic food? Remove all the toxics. What is left is sattvic food. Remove all the unhealthy byproducts, the processed ingredients, the long list of ingredients which need the dictionary to be understood. Stick to basics. Grow your own produce if you can. Cook fresh, eat fresh, be happy.
All right, we are coming towards the end of the episode. So, is there any last word or something that you want to tell our audience?
So coming back to Seva Diwali, I want to say we have, if you want to start it in your neighborhood, there is, you can definitely come in contact with your local coordinator. And if not, there is this website called Seva Diwali, SEWA Diwali, DIWALI, sevadiwali.org, and there you will find the contact and the phone number, and that coordinator will help you connect through the local contact person in your neighborhood. And anybody can actually come and start as a volunteer. It's a collective idea. It's for the people, by the people, and it's for the masses. And it's not somebody's own brainchild. It has been there forever. Now it's just come up as it's become a whole collective force now, because when we come together we are able to do much more wonders. And I'm just very thankful that I somehow got landed up being in this project and I'm able to serve. And thank you so much for having me on your show. It was a delightful time for me.
Thank you, Diptiji, for coming to the episode and talking about the Seva and like how you got involved on it and volunteering and how that has shaped your life, and something that people should start doing, because Seva Paramatama, right? When you start
Yes.
giving and doing good for others, it just comes back in several form. Right?
Absolutely
So
right. Yes.
so thank you for that. Thank you, audience, for being with us, and we'll come back with new topics next time. Thank you.